Hello folks, Buxton and Lawrence Barretto with you once again for more breaking news. And really, Lawrence, I think we saw this one coming ever since the announcement that Valtteri Bottas will indeed leave Mercedes for Alfa Romeo at the end of 2021. Announcement, confirmation that George Russell will be his replacement, will partner Lewis Hamilton from 2022.
Yeah, we had all the other pieces of the puzzle. We had that Toto said it was between George and Valtteri. We had Toto said he'd made a decision. We had George saying he knows where he's going to drive. So we finally got there at the end, that final piece in the puzzle. And I don't think there's going to be anyone who's going to be shocked by this news. And, you know, George, this is his chance. This is the thing that he's wanted for so long now. He's put what he will feel the hard yards in at Williams. And now he's going to get the chance, you know, at the big team, in the World Championship contending team.
Yeah, it's massive, massive news for him, for the team. What is Mercedes getting in a driver in George Russell?
They are getting a driver that is super hungry to prove that he is the best in the world. I genuinely think when you look at George and the way that he talks, he sees himself as a multiple world champion. And when he stood in for Lewis Hamilton last year, when he tested positive for COVID, he delivered, you know, on every metric really. And it was only misfortune that he didn't manage to follow through and get, you know, a podium, possibly his first win. So what they're going to get is potentially the future, like Lewis Hamilton described him last weekend in the Netherlands.
Yeah. He also outqualified Lewis Hamilton in the wet. Fastest Mercedes runner in Spa, which was, I think, astonishing. We've seen flashes of brilliance from him, but those flashes have become more frequent. It's become not just sparks, it's become a fire, a raging kind of inferno behind him, pushing him up towards that top billing. Mercedes get, as you say, a very hungry driver, also a very competent driver, a driver who has won championships at pretty much every level that he's contested. Really one of that new breed, along with Verstappen, with Leclerc, with those young guys coming through the sport that will create the future for the sport. How important was it for Mercedes to tie him down? Could they have afforded to have left him out of the top team any longer?
Well, I think Mercedes are looking at their future in the long term. They're looking at life after Lewis Hamilton, aren't they? And Lewis is going to be here for another couple of years, but then they need that guy or that girl who's going to take over and really take the team forward. And George has been in their junior programme. They've evaluated him all the way through. We've had the likes of Esteban Ocon and Pascal Wehrlein in that programme, so they kind of know what they're trying to get out of the programme in terms of ability. And George is that guy, and what they're going to get is a team leader who can take over and take that team forward. You mentioned the consistency. I think that doing that at a team like Williams, when it's not always easy to see when they have a good weekend because they're so far back, the very fact that George has been able to show that week in, week out quite visually, I think, shows how talented he really is.
It's interesting, isn't it? You look at Ferrari and Red Bull and the fact that they realised early on with Verstappen, with Leclerc, that they had something very special, who they wanted as part of the top team. And after just a year and a bit with Max, but a year with Charles, they moved them to the top table. Mercedes haven't done that. And there are a lot of people that question why. Why wouldn't you move them up that quickly if you knew you had someone special? And what you touched on there, with his role at Williams and how he's developed at Williams, seems to play into that. Those years there have actually taught him how to be a team leader, taught him that responsibility of drawing everybody around him that the Maxes, maybe a Charles to a degree, had to kind of learn on the job with the focus of the world on them and under pressure.
And that's not to say that George couldn't have coped with that pressure. Of course, we'll never know now, but I think that this slightly different approach that Mercedes have taken, where you're schooling him somewhere else, could pay dividends. And based on the evidence that we've seen this year, he's become Mr. Saturday, of course, so he seems to be nailing qualifying quite consistently. What we've seen so far, it seems like the right strategy, and he's going to now go up against Lewis Hamilton in a place where he's going to feel really confident in his own ability. I think this dynamic is hugely exciting, and I can't wait to see which way George approaches it. If he goes in like all guns blazing and really tries to nail it from the early doors, or if he kind of tries to learn a little bit from Lewis, accepts that this is the long game, accepts that Mercedes support him. I think the latter would be a more sensible thing, but who knows, when you get there and you've got a car that could win, you don't know what you're going to do.
And that's it, and that's why so many people have said that this relationship has the potential in one aspect to be incredible for Mercedes, in another to be explosive for Mercedes. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. I cannot wait to see how it all pans out. Of course, this also means there is now a spare seat at Williams, and Williams have said it's not just down to the names that are being bandied around the paddock at the moment. They have a huge list of drivers that they can choose from.
Yeah, I think for Williams it shows how far they've come, that they have got that huge list to choose from, and they are choosing. It's not like they're forced to take whatever's left. And I guess based on all of that, they can take a little bit more time to just decide what they want to do and announce it on their terms. Having said all that, obviously the quicker you can sign things up, the quicker you can just focus on next year and have to stop the questions that are inevitably going to be asked.
Fascinating stuff. Moving into a new era of Formula One in 2022, new cars, potentially, new championship rivals up at the top, and a new lineup at Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton will be partnered by George Russell. It's super tasty, isn't it?
Just sounds brilliant, just saying it, doesn't it?
Absolutely incredible stuff. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Can't wait for 2022. For now, that's it, though, from Lawrence and me.